Good day, everyone, especially to our Readings in the Philippine History instructor, Mrs. Arlene Kaluoy. Good day, ma'am. I am Julia May Virtudis Maputo from BEd 2, and today I am going to discuss the prevailing problems prior to the enactment of Presidential Decree Number 27, or also known as the Emancipation of Tenants in the Philippines. Before the passing of Presidential Decree Number 27 in the Philippines, the problems with land ownership were deep-rooted and affected both the rural areas and agricultural sectors of the country. One of the major issues that contributed to this land ownership problem was land inequality. It is where a small group of wealthy landowners controlled most of the land. They owned huge estates and farms called haciendas, while the majority of people living in rural areas, including farmers and tenants, remained landless with very little or no land to cultivate. As a result, this led to widespread poverty and inequality in the countryside. Another major issue prior to the implementation of the Presidential Decree Number 27 was tenant exploitation. This meant that landlords often demanded very high rent payments or took most of the crops that tenants harvested on the land. Additionally, tenants often faced unfair evictions and had little protection or security of tenure, meaning they weren't sure how long they could keep cultivating in the land, which led them to a cycle of poverty and insecurity for many tenant farmers. Another problem was absentee landlords. This meant that many landowners who owned large amounts of land did not actually live on their land, instead residing in cities or other countries, and as a result, they often neglected the land, didn't improve the infrastructure, and didn't make it easy for tenants to access important services needed for their livelihood. This absence further worsened the situation for the tenants as they were left to struggle with poorly maintained land and little support. Another significant problem before implementing President Decree Number 27 was the lack of proper land records and tenure security in rural areas. When there are no adequate documents or records regarding land ownership, it can make it very difficult for people who live or work on the land, such as tenants and those not holding proper titles, to claim ownership and obtain loans to improve the land. This lack of proper documentation and tenure security made it challenging to modernize agriculture and discouraged people from investing in improving the land because of the uncertainty about who really owned the land. Another common issue was land disputes and conflicts. There were frequent disagreements and conflicts between landowners and tenants, and sometimes even among tenants themselves, about who owned the land and how it should be used. Unfortunately, there wasn't a good system or method for quickly and fairly resolving these disputes, and as a result, it often led to violence and prevented the land from being used effectively and efficiently. And lastly, another problem was inadequate government land policy. The government's policies for dealing with land were unclear and inconsistent, and there weren't enough programs to actually distribute land to people who needed it. Many politicians didn't seem to care about fixing the land problem and weren't doing enough to improve things for the majority of people who didn't own the land, meaning that not much was being done to fix the problem. This lack of a clear and effective government policy on land ownership allowed the situation to worsen, leading to a small group of wealthy landowners continuing to hold onto a large amount of land while the majority of the population lacked access or ownership rights. In conclusion, before the implementation of Presidential Decree Number 27 or the Emancipation of Tenants, the problems with land ownership in the Philippines showed that the system was very unfair and old-fashioned. Having a few rich landowners with most of the land, tenant exploitation, no good records, and lots of land disputes made agriculture hard to improve, kept people poor, and made life very difficult for most of the rural population in the Philippines. The decree was meant to fix these problems by giving more opportunities to small farmers by taking land away from big landowners and giving it to people who really needed and deserved it. This way, it would give more people access to land, secure their rights to use it, and give them a better chance to improve their lives economically and socially. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.